the news we're receiving?
I think that the British people haven't been given a clear understanding of the complexity of reasons of why we're going into why we've gone into this war. And in my view, that's up to journalists, that's up to the media. You know, we've been told that it's about the liberation of Kuwait. I think the liberation of Kuwait has got very little to do with it. We've been told that it's about the sanctity of a United Nations resolution. Well, if that was so, all those UN resolutions that were about Palestine, Turkey's invasion of Cyprus, the United States invasion of Panama and Grenada, then you know, the argument goes by the board. If Kuwait was known for its broccoli, would we be invading? I doubt it very much. So it's all about oil. It's about Western interests in that part of the world. It's not about liberation. And that, even if that was a dissenting view, even if that was a minority view, I think it's a view that articulates the misgivings of a large number of people in this country, and it simply hasn't got through our media coverage.
So who in particular are you referring to it? Is it just you're dismissing the blanket coverage, or are you talking specifically about tabloid newspapers or the television coverage?
It does vary, of course, but I think most people now are watching television through the night. And it's television that is, in my view, telling us very little that's useful, very little that's accurate, and a lot of it that's deliberately false. We're not getting any images of visual images. We're not really getting any information about, first of all, why we went into the war and what we're doing there, and above all, what our aims are and what we're going to do after it. I mean, all these questions, it seems to me, have gone begging. And in a free society, surely that's what the media is meant to do.
Now, there's some, I'm sure, who might disagree with you point blank anyway, but who might feel that now that we actually are involved in a war, regardless of how that came about, whether that is right or wrong, we are in a war, so therefore the reporting should concentrate not on analysis of how we got there, but actually what is going on out there. Now, what do you think of the standard of reports that are actually coming back from the Gulf?
It's very difficult. It's impossible. I wouldn't go out there. This is a war I just would not report from out there. It would be impossible to function out there. They have things called media response teams, in which journalists have to do as they're told. They have to follow around media minders. Now, all that sounds fine on a battlefield, but when the information is so limited, is so restricted, then how can journalists out there, honest journalists, do their job of informing the public within the limitations of a war, without giving away troop movements and so on? How can they inform the public of what's going on? This is the most controlled war this century, in my view, so far.
But isn't that right, that they shouldn't be given complete freedom? I mean, obviously we don't want to give away troop movements. You don't want to give details about what the coalition are doing for fear that will be turned against you. So presumably there must be a degree of censorship.
I didn't say complete freedom. I said that, you know, I've had to follow those rules in my career, and of course you must follow them. You must never endanger life by your reporting. That's a ground rule that people must stick to. I mean, Jonathan, I mean, basically the reporting of the war as it's going on is not as important, if you like, as trying to give us some understanding of the meaning of this war. We've got no idea yet that this is a war in which human life has been lost, and I'm meaning civilian human life. We're not at war with the Iraqi people. We're at war with a tyrant. We have these surgical precision strikes, so-called, that those who are running our dawn-to-dawn coverage seem to be accepting the information that we're given, that everything is being done as the Defence Secretary says it's being done.
Now, presumably the war is changing as it progresses, obviously, and I would imagine the reporting will affect that. I mean, I don't mean to sound glib about this, but obviously the first few days of reporting in the tabloids, it did sound like they were describing scenes from Top Gun, as opposed to something going out that human life was involved in. Do you think it will change as the conflict progresses? Do you think that we will be getting a slightly broader, maybe deeper picture?
No, I think it'll change as the authorities want it to change. You're right, at the beginning there was the euphoria. We were winning. Our bombs were sort of, our Tomahawk missiles were going down the street and turning left and blowing up buildings, and it was all high-tech magic. Now that's changed. It seems that we haven't knocked out the Iraqi Air Force, we haven't knocked out these missiles, that there's a great deal to be done, and the Prime Minister is saying, wait on, it's not going to be easy. Well, that's a direct contradiction of before. And I suppose that makes, I hope it makes my point, that journalists have to be vigilant about what governments tell people. It's not a matter of protecting our military secrets. It's protecting the right of people in a free society to know about a war that is not a war of national survival. Britain isn't being attacked. This is an imperial war between two countries, basically Kuwait and Iraq, or Saudi Arabia and Iraq, a long way away, in which imperial interests are at stake. And I feel as a journalist, the bets are off in a sense. It's not like World War II, where even a draconian censorship was justified because the country was under threat. This country isn't under threat, and I think people in this country are sophisticated enough to be able to make up their own minds about why we're in it, what we're doing in it, and where we're going after it.
So having said that, it does feel certainly as though we're getting better reporting than ever before, perhaps due to the access to satellites we have now. Has that made much difference in the way the war's reported, do you think?
It's interesting because I think a lot of people feel that we are, and I can understand that. What we're getting is a lot of repetitive information. We're getting an enormous amount of information on radio, television, as never before. But it's repetitive. It's not telling us anything. It's not really moving off an agenda, and that agenda is set by the authorities fundamentally that are running this war. It's almost as if the whole idea of journalism, that is of something that people pursue in order to give an independent view to the public, has been redefined. It's as if we're sort of an appendage of a great information factory. And I think most people now are starting to turn it off.
Now okay, having said that, and you said you wouldn't want to be out there reporting, but if you were out there then how would you be reporting? What would you focus on?
I think I'd spend most of my time trying to get away from my military minder, that I'd make myself so unpopular so quick. I think what I'd be trying to focus on is the meaning of the war, to give people a general perspective of what's happening out there. Perhaps what it's like for the troops out there, but also what it's like for the people in that region. Because the troops have come from outside. The people in that region have a history that we know very little about. Perhaps I'd start to build into my news reports some of the things that I think people don't know in this country, that Iraq was a member of the British Empire, that Kuwait was effectively a province of Iraq, that Britain divided Iraq and Kuwait in order to divide and rule not so long ago in the 1920s. That's just a short time ago. I think it's giving meaning to events, because there is so much immediacy in the reporting of this war that we need something behind that. We need explanation, and that certainly doesn't seem to be coming through.
Well, John, thanks for coming on and sharing your opinions with us. Mr. John Pilger.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John Pilger, and to all of my guests tonight, and especially thank you to you for watching. Join me again on Wednesday when I have musical guest for Q and actress Joanna Lumley. Thanks for watching. Good night.